All right. Well, welcome back to Seek First to Understand. I am here this week with my friend Bryan. Bryan and I have known each other for 20-something years now.
Yep.
That makes me feel old when I say that. So Bryan and I met during my time working at the Y, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But Bryan, if you want to give us a quick introduction to who you are.
Sure. So start from day one for the most part. All right.
Day you were born. Let's start there.
Yeah. Crazy thing is I was born in Tennessee. And I think, bumper sticker says, I wasn't born in Texas, but I got here as fast as I could. And so I was 6 weeks old. My parents moved to the colony.
Okay.
Lived there for about 4 years maybe. And then we moved to Plano. And then I spent my time all through school in Plano. Was a proud Plano East graduate.
Okay. You have an older brother.
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
He's 3 years older.
Okay. Sorry. I don't think I've ever met your old brother, but I know that you have one. So anyway, go ahead.
He's pretty cool. He's a police officer in Tulsa. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of cool stories there too. And then, after my senior year, started working with the YMCA, and that's where I met a bunch of cool people, a bunch of good friends, including you.
How did that come about? Like, how did you start working at the Y?
Sure. So finished up my senior year, not too sure what I was going to do next. My mom worked with a couple ladies that were directors there at the Y, Bethany and Yeager.
Oh, seriously?
Awesome people. And so she got me connected, and then so that summer I started working, and so we were heading out to Camp Cherokee on Lake Louisville every day. And
You graduated high school in 98.
98.
Okay, so I started at the Y in 99 because I remember starting, and some of y'all had already
Sure.
been there and knew each other, and so I remember kind of being the new kid. But okay,
Yeah.
So you did Camp Cherokee your very first year.
I did.
Okay.
So much fun. So crazy. A lot of good times.
So because my first year was we were an indoor camp.
Yeah.
So there was always fun banter between the indoor
Sure.
camp and the outdoor camp. So that's
Sure.
why I'm like, okay, I do kind of remember.
Yeah.
I don't really feel like I know you until we started working together, which was a couple of years later,
Sure.
because otherwise we were just at trainings and stuff
Right.
together. Okay.
Yeah.
So sorry. So you worked at the Y, and
Yeah.
then
So
College.
I was going to community college
okay.
at Quasi, and was also working after school now with the Y.
Mhm.
And so that was good. Did that for 2 years until eventually headed out to Southwest Texas at the time.
Yes.
But I was the last graduating class of to Eat 'em Up
You
cadets.
love cats. Yes.
And then last graduating class at Southwest Texas, now Texas State, and went out there with the focus of education, wanted to become a teacher.
So did the Y plant that seed? Is that kind of where that came from?
100%. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep, I finished high school really not knowing what I was going to do.
You had family in the education system? No.
My mom,
Okay.
she was a paraprofessional, and but really just being at the Y and working around youth, and then I enjoyed it. I had fun with it, and so wanted to find something that I would enjoy, and so that pushed me towards that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you knew when you started down there, I'm going to get.
Yeah.
And was the plan just, I want to be a teacher? Did you know what age? I don't know. Again, I don't have a great education.
Sure.
Do you have to pick a focus, if you will, a path
Sure.
there?
Really got to pick elementary or secondary, and at the time Southwest would just started this program that was specific for middle school. So there's a very small cohort of us that went to this program. We were actually in Buda, Texas at a middle school. We would meet there every day, and half the day would be teaching, half the day would be us going into classrooms. And so walked out with a very specific focus on middle school.
And middle school being 6th, 7th, and 8th?
Yep.
Okay. Because something I would like to mention, where my kids go to school, 6th grade is part of elementary.
Sure.
And while I have wonderful things to say about our school district, that's probably my biggest complaint.
Right.
I just don't like it.
Sure.
So where you are now, though, it's 6th, 7th, and 8th is your middle school.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that. I've always, in a perfect world, 6th grade would be on its own, freshmen would be on their own, and there's a big difference between, opposite kindergarten and a 6th grader. There's also a big difference between a 6th grader and an 8th grader.
Okay. So the school district over from us has it broken down a little different, right? The elementaries do 4th, 5th and 6th
Yeah.
are together, 7th and 8th are together, and then they go to high school. And there's part of me that, having not been through that system, I'm like, that seems, because to your point, I feel like 5th and 6th grade, they're going through the same,
Sure.
they're kind of in the same place, right? And then 7th and 8th is the same, but 6th grade in elementary school is just weird to me. And those kids have been together so long
Right.
that by the end of 6th grade, they're itching to,
They're ready
I'm like,
to go.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're still having to like walk in a line to go.
Sure.
So, okay, but where you are now, and you've always been in districts at 6th, 7th, and 8th as middle?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that you like that. But if you
I do,
had your pick,
sure.
6 would be its own little.
No, love it, and people, there's one or two way people look at you when you say you like middle school. They either think you're crazy or they understand it. And middle school I love it because it's such a change for the kids. They're trying to figure out who they are. They're trying to figure out their friend group. They're trying to figure out where they belong. And just to help the kids kind of navigate that, help the parents navigate that, it's really, really where my passion is.
That's interesting. So, because when we worked at the Y, we both did 5 through 12, right? Was our age group that we handled. So when I lived in Hawaii, I worked with middle schoolers. And they are just a different.
They are.
Because it's the push-pull, right? Like they want to be close to you. They still need some guidance, but also they want their independence.
Right.
And some of those kids, I'm like one day you were their best friend, and the next day they wanted nothing to do with you. So I think that was a struggle for me. So you have to have a thick skin to work with that age.
You do. And you're right. I mean, they're sweet. They come into 6th graders, really, still kind of that middle school mentality. But by the time they reach 8th grade, they think they are young adults and ready to get out of there. And so, it's just really all about creating a safe place for them, to be who they are, to figure out who they are. And that was always my goal when I eventually became a campus principal was, my first most important thing is just create an environment where kids feel welcome, they feel safe, they feel valued, they feel seen. And, that's the foundation of everything.
So let's go back. So you got out of college and your first job was a teacher.
A teacher, teaching 7th grade Texas history and coaching.
Okay.
And did that for 3 years until I had the opportunity at the same campus to become like the athletic director, athletic coordinator at the middle school. And that moved me over to PE. And so I was there for 5 years, just kind of leading up athletics and PE. And a lot of fun, met a lot of great people, a lot of good coaches. And after that, that's when I started moving towards administration and got a job as a dean and then assistant principal. And then
what's a dean? What's that mean?
Sure. I say dean. It was administrative intern at the time. It doesn't exist anymore. And it was out of middle school. So you had a principal, an assistant principal, then you had an administrative intern, which really this person took care of all the behaviors.
Oh.
Worked directly with the kids a lot. And so, ran the lunch duties and all that good stuff.
Okay. And of those 3 jobs, let's just start there. So teaching and coaching,
sure,
AD and dean, which of those was your favorite?
It's a tough question.
Because you enjoyed them all or because you did not enjoy them all?
No, loved them all. In the classroom, I loved the intimacy. They were my group. When I got to the gym, it was different because now you're running large groups, but the coaching.
What does PE look like for 7th and 8th grade? Because I'm like, you're not playing dodgeball, right? I'm assuming they would probably like to play dodgeball.
They would. It's oh man, it's tough. It's
because in PE, you have your kids that are not in athletics are in PE,
right?
Because they have to get that PE credit or whatever. Okay.
And so then 6th graders, everybody's in PE, and so you've got your kids that are just eating up athletics. Want to go out there. Then you got your kids that no. I mean, if I could hide the whole time, I would.
Mm-hmm.
So. It's always fun and challenge to kind of find what those kids were interested in and then kind of carve a path for them to get involved. But it's a lot of you got to have so much structure because there's so many kids in the gym and, it's not just about playing games. It's really trying to teach kids how to move their body, and goal was always can we teach some type of sports that will hopefully become a habit for a lifetime? Do we meet that all the time? No, but that was kind of the focus.
To create a path for a healthy lifestyle for any interest.
Yeah.
That sounds like a big goal. But that's super fun. And while you're teaching PE, you're the athletic director, coordinator.
Sure. Yeah.
What did that job entail? You're not setting schedules, but you're making sure everyone's got buses and they can get where they're going?
Yeah, and we had a lot of that done for us too. A lot of it was just kind of managing the day-to-day, looking at practice schedules from, football up to volleyball, and trying to process, and you had a small group that you're managing, making sure they were getting there on time because they had to get there early and, making sure that they were managing the kids before or after practice.
So were you at the school when if there's a practice going on, you need to be at the school? No. Okay, good. Because I'm man, there's practices.
Sure.
Yeah, like I think the 8th grade football team where my son goes to school started practice like 5:45 in the morning.
Yeah.
Well, but you didn't have like your coaches handled that.
Correct.
Your job was primarily school hour. You had outside of school
Sure.
hours.
Yeah. I mean, when I was coaching, football, we had before and after school practice, and then, we would run tournaments. I was responsible. We had a game day schedule for non-football games that had to be the administrator on duty. And, I shared that with the principal and assistant principals.
Okay. So then after doing that, you're like, how do you make that decision to go, I'm going to get out of the classroom,
Sure.
right? And get into the admin side of being a dean or whatever.
Yeah.
Which seems like a good stepping stone, right? Because you still were getting the student interaction
Sure.
as well as the admin.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you had to navigate those big groups of kids, which, if you're in the classroom the whole time, it's hard to really get that feel of like, when I'm on lunch duty, how do I get everybody's attention? How do I, manage before and after school with these big crowds? I got encouraged by some friends and a principal of mine to explore getting into administration, something that I really never thought of before. And I actually had got my degree, and then I sat on it for a year, just really not ready to make a move.
You have to get an advanced degree.
Yep.
Okay.
A master's in administration.
Master's in administration. Okay.
Yeah.
Again, did not know that.
Yeah.
So is that a state thing, or that was your district going, hey, if you want to go down this path, you need more education?
State thing.
Okay.
You got to have a master's.
Okay. So you got your master's while you were having a full-time job. And let's also go back and talk about, you have a wife and
I do.
and 3 children.
Yes.
Okay. So let's pause your education journey real quick and go back. You met your wife where?
In San Marcos. She had just moved down there. We had a mutual friend, and so ended up getting us together to meet, and kicked us off pretty quick there. And we dated for quite a while because I wanted us both to have an opportunity to get through school. And I'd gone to school and I'd come back to Dallas, and she followed me here while she was still working on her school, and I'm going to TWU to get her degree in education as well.
And
now a librarian. And I'm loving it. It's such a good fit for her. Like, she absolutely loves it, and she's awesome at it.
just knowing your wife, and I don't know Crystal as well as I would like to, but even I see that I'm like, she's kind of that quiet yet helpful, get you what you need. And like, it does sound like a good fit.
Yeah.
Even just
she works more than I did sometimes as a principal, just because she's creating lessons. She's, prepping for a group of kids because she teaches a lot. She sits in with teachers and planning.
And nice.
Yeah.
And she's also at the middle school age?
Elementary.
Okay. And she's always been elementary.
She's, for the most part, professionally, she's always been. She was a library assistant in middle school for a little while.
Okay. But elementary is more her jam.
Yeah.
Because middle school's tough. So, did Crystal work with us at the Y?
She did towards the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, why do I feel like Okay. So you went to school there, moved back up here. She finished her degree.
Yep.
Y'all got married.
2005, October 1st, got married. So we just celebrated our 20th.
Oh my gosh.
I know. Wild.
It's funny too, because we were talking about weddings prior to this, and I'm like, I remember your wedding.
Yes.
Jay and Kyle and I came on together and went to your wedding. And that was this kind of little mini Y reunion and seeing people. So that was super fun. So you moved back up here. You're teaching. She's teaching.
She's still in school, getting ready to teach.
Okay.
Yep.
And then kids.
Yeah. So I got married in 2005, had our first kiddo in April 2010.
Okay.
And our second.
So you had a good several years of getting to be fun and young and married.
Then I try to listen to people that are wise. And I just remember one of my office managers was like, enjoy this time. Like, you'll get this time back. Like, go vacation. And so we went to Hawaii, went to the Bahamas. We did some different things that.
Because you got married. How old were you when you got married? You could do
25.
Okay. Yeah. So you got married in the age that you still had time to go let's have some fun before we really.
Yeah. Life really kicks in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So you currently have 3 children and their ages are?
They are currently 12. Oh, gosh. Yeah. 12, 14, and 15.
Okay. So I remember, and we talked about this recently, when your oldest daughter was born and there was a Ranger game.
Yep.
And Reckless Kelly played afterwards. And you brought the baby.
Yep.
And I remember, because I was young and single, right? And I was like, she was great.
Yeah.
Y'all were great. But I think the life lesson that even I took away from that was when you bring kids in, you bring them into your world. Like
Sure.
your world doesn't stop
Right.
because you brought a child into it. It's no, you're part of us
Yeah.
and we're going to keep rolling.
Yeah.
And so you and Crystal planted that seed with me to go, you can still do life and you may have to tweak it, right? You may go home
Sure.
a little earlier. You may drink less,
Right.
but the kids just come into the fold. And
Yeah.
has that continued to be how you've treated?
100%. You know, we also teach our kids to value that, like, your mom and I are the most important thing. You know, like our relationships, most important thing, and then we got y'all. You know, we're just
Right.
just a super. You know, it's 1A, 1B, but
But we're going to put us first and
Yeah.
make sure that we're solid to continue
Yeah.
to parent for y'all
Sure.
and be awesome
Yeah.
for you. Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's a good lesson too, because I think a lot of people, I say that, I don't know, people
sure,
have kids and the kids take over and then they stop nurturing their relationship. And
seeing it. you
yeah,
know, too
I'm sure
much,
you've
you
seen it
know.
a lot doing what you do.
Yeah.
Okay. So your career's progressing, your personal life is progressing. We're having kids. We
Yeah.
bought a home. We're doing all the things. And then from dean, then you become a principal,
Assistant principal.
assistant principal.
Yeah.
Okay.
And spent just 1 year as assistant principal before I kind of got this unique position as a curriculum coordinator position. So in the district, I was over health and PE, and it was a central office position, and I did that for 3 years.
Okay. I'm going to say something. That
Yeah.
sounds really boring to me.
Um,
And for someone like you, it was
Sure.
like, I liked being in the classroom, I
Yeah.
like the kids, and now you've taken you out of the building.
Yeah.
But for
Sure.
3 years, you didn't, I would assume you didn't hate it that much because you did it for 3 years. So
Right.
yes, tell us more about how
Yeah,
that
no.
filled your bucket.
yeah, no, it was an interesting move. You know, like the group that I worked with over there, that whole department was filled with these just incredible people that were bright, that were curriculum oriented, and that was a part that I kind of missed out on, only being in the classroom for 3 years. And
Was all the back end work that people
yeah.
are doing to make that
Sure.
happen for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
so, you know, I sat on all the meetings with the secondary math, science, English, you know, a little bit of everything, and then we got to learn from them and got to write curriculum. And you know, there also was a need at the time for a focus on secondary PE. You know, it was a bunch of coaches running it, and you know, depending on which campus you went to, depending on the quality of the program. So, you know, my focus was really trying to make it a little bit more uniform. You know, have some common curriculum. But you're right, it wasn't for me. Like
Okay.
I got to be in the building, and if I say that, I'm out of the building again. But so after 3 years, like I went to one of the senior directors, and I was like, hey, would really like to get back into the building as an assistant principal. You know, what does that look like? And so transitioned to back, and this time I was at a 9-10 high school, which
Okay.
kind of unique to that district.
Right.
And was there for 3 years, and that was during COVID. It was a very high performing 9-10. And so that whole time was just like the wild, wild west. It was crazy, you know, being in an assistant principal position, you know, even harder for the teachers, but like just trying to organize what teaching was going to look like.
Right. So again, we're in Texas, so if somebody elsewhere is listening, shut down and all that. But the way I remember it, it was like everybody went to spring break, and then the world shut down, and we didn't come back from spring break.
Yep.
So it was quite the scramble because nobody had ever
Sure.
dealt with this before, right? And I'm only at that point, I'm a mom of a second grader,
Right.
so I only know, okay, we're going to transition, and now this kid's going to sit in front of a screen and
Right.
work and whatever. And thankfully, it was Jackson, and he can handle that. But yes, tell me about the back end, because as assistant principal who's in the building and dealing with
Sure.
the day to day, part of me goes, you don't have a job now.
Right.
So what did your job look like
Sure.
when everyone's at home?
Yeah, no. Yeah, no, it didn't have a lot of guys at first. You know, I mean, we were all at home, you know, and eventually we started making our way back to campus, you know, within our offices, and, you know, would meet in big rooms, you know, spread out so we could discuss what we had. And, you know, you're looking at, like you said, after spring break. So a lot of the focus was how are we going to wrap up this year? What does that look like? And, you know, how do we continue to kind of do the things that make school unique, like the award ceremonies, the graduations, you know, and being part of that. And, so that was a lot of planning, you know, and it was just supporting teachers of, hey, this kid's not showing up, this kid's not turning the camera on, making phone calls home, jumping into classroom Zooms, see if we could help navigate some of those. And
Again, that's something I'd never thought of because I'm a second grader at that
Right.
point. So you're on the phone with parents going, hey, little Johnny or Susie
Yeah.
is not attending class.
Yep.
How do we get them more involved?
Sure.
And what did those conversations look like with parents who are like, look, we're just trying to keep our head above water.
Sure.
We're in a global pandemic.
Yeah. No, a lot of empathy, a lot of understanding, and then just helping them understand too that like we don't want to lose them, like we need them here. There's still the expectation, but there wasn't a whole lot of things we could do if they were, besides
Right.
shoot that email, make that phone call.
Were they taking attendance? Like, I mean, you can still flunk out at that point for not showing up, but what does showing up look like, right?
Yeah.
They turn on the screen and walk away.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're taking attendance, but attendance didn't matter.
Okay. Got it. That makes sense. So, you get through that school year that's 2 months or whatever left, and then
Sure.
you've got summer break.
Yeah.
So with summer break, a lot of planning, because again, we're still in a pandemic, and now moving forward, what do we start school looking like?
Yeah. So a lot of that planning, and then, slowly kind of seeing what it would look like to get teachers back on campus. And we did that whole hybrid where partial on campus, partial off campus. And that was it was so tough for teachers, because they're trying to be over here managing this group that's at home while physically managing the group that's in front of them. And
So they couldn't get into just getting into a rhythm was
Yeah.
not a thing.
yeah, and then they're trying to keep themselves safe too, from the kids that are in their class, so they can't be up like they normally would, one-on-one with the student teaching, they're behind the desk, they're at the computer. And so there's a lot of just kind of learning out how to navigate that.
Okay. So, and all of that time you're an assistant principal for 9th and 10th.
Yep.
And then at some point you transition out of that, right? What was your next job?
Yeah. I got opportunity to come support a middle school campus for the end of the school year. Some things were going on the campus, and
this is end of the following school year. So most people are back in.
most people are back in. Yeah, there's still like this kind of loose option to not be there, but and so just wanted their help at the end of the year. Then I was going to go back to my high school, and that finished up. And kind of towards the end of that summer, I had an opportunity to apply to be principal at that campus, and so I took that opportunity, applied, and got the job. And
principal at a 7th and 8th grade school that you were 6th, 7th, and 8th that you were helping previously, and now you're their principal.
Yeah.
Okay, that's super cool.
2 brand new APs that were hired actually before I got there, and there's first year of them.
AP's an assistant principal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm following. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was their first year of being assistant principal, my first year being a principal, and so.
How did parents receive that? Because as a parent, I go, ooh,
Yeah,
these people know what they're doing.
Good.
Okay.
The schools had some issues that they were working through, and the administration there was before me was great, and they were outstanding, but just certain circumstances, they took different positions, and so I think kind of having a fresh start was not the worst thing for this campus, and so I moved into that with them being new, but we had most of the staff was returning, so that helped, and it was crazy challenging the first couple of years. I think it was finally the third year that we all got our groove, and those 2 new assistant principals stay there. They're still there. They're incredible assistant principals, and so that time was just it was a challenge. But then, like I said, you just learn from everything, and we eventually got this campus that I really felt we did a great job of building a culture where people felt welcome. I would always. If parents called with an issue, I'd invite them up. I'm like, come see how the halls are run. You want to step in the classroom, we'll make that happen. And
Yeah, because that's an interesting transition too. Again, having elementary school kids, parents are kind of always welcome at the elementary. Come have lunch with them. Come volunteer. The PTA. Blah 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 blah. And then when they transition to middle school, there's a little. It's not that parents aren't welcome, but it's not the same, right? And your kids don't want you around. They're not like, Mom, come have lunch with me. They're like, Nah, Mom, back off.
Sure.
So it is probably an interesting challenge to make sure that parents know, hey, you are always welcome. To your point, come check it out. My son's school did an award ceremony recently, and he got an award, which is super cool. But even the principal acknowledged then, like, hey, there's not a whole lot of opportunity for y'all to be here. So we love that we have these opportunities for you to come up. So kind of that same thing with you, just creating that environment of parents are welcome. How do we get them to be more involved?
Yeah. And so we did things like we brought watchdogs to the middle school, and hit and miss, but the dads that we did have come up, but we appreciate it, and I think they appreciate it. They were some of our biggest advocates because they got to see and these people are working hard.
Watchdogs, for people who may not know,
It is a program where the focus is to have, and really the focus is around dads on campus, and they're just there the entire day, and they're there for safety reasons first is how it kind of got built, where they're checking the exterior doors, they're a visual presence in the school, and they might pop in and help a class here and there. For us, they helped with lunch duties, but in between they'd be out for passing period, and so just an
the
opportunity to
dogs
get dads.
is dads of great students.
I think so.
What I understand. Yeah. My husband watched dogs once a semester.
Okay.
Lunch duties his least favorite part. He hates it. And he's like, some dads started playing rock, paper, scissors, and now every kid wants it. And he's like, I don't do that. That's just, I'm not doing that with you. But that's really interesting to bring it to the middle school.
Yeah.
That's
and
cool.
then our PTA, we always encourage all parents to get involved, and the PTA is a great place to get involved. And, I remember I had one mom that was like, I'm on the PTA because I like to sit in these meetings at school and hear from you the insights of what's going on in school. Because I would share everything that I could with them. I'd always make sure that they were the first ones to know what was going on, and if we were having any changes, or, if they had any suggestions, I'm always opened up to hear from them, and so it's a great way to get involved and be part of the school.
So I'm going to ask the question again. Now that we've talked about all your different jobs, almost, being a principal, is that your favorite? Like, you're like, I could step back in, that's what I would want to do?
Loved it. I'll say education is in a tough place right now, just with legislative changes, with this kind of moving target of accountability. It's a tough job, and I loved it, but I never could find a good way to disconnect. Emails were always on. I remember one time Chris and I were at a concert, and it's because what we like to do, and I looked at my phone, which I shouldn't have, and I'd got an email of a pretty upset parent, and I just wrecked my whole night, and so.
Because you care, which I think is what makes a great educator, is they have to care. But to your point, you have to be able to separate and go, I'm turning off educator Bryan and being husband Bryan, dad Bryan, and all the other Bryans you want to be.
Yeah.
Which, again, I don't think of it that way because I'm a parent, and I go, well, you go to school and you teach for these hours and then you go home. But you're right that when you care, you carry that stuff with you.
Yeah.
So you mentioned legislative changes.
Sure.
Our state has done some interesting things. Before we get into that, I actually do want to ask, we've had a lot of school closures.
Yep.
And there's different sides of this, and I just kind of want to hear your side of it.
Yeah.
Because part of my brain goes, I get it. Like, certain cities were built as like first-time home buyer cities, right? And people moved in, they had their kids, they raised their families, and then they've stayed. Yep. So the need for those schools, well, those kids are not there anymore. Right. So, okay, we're closing schools. But I also wonder how much of a drop-off has happened after COVID when kids did homeschool. And you have parents like me that are like, take my kid back. And then you have other parents that go, no, this is actually working well for us. We're going to choose this path. Is it the combination of both? What's your take on that?
Yeah. It's more of the aging out than it is of the kids staying home. It is greater numbers, but not to the extent of school closures. It's the Richardsons, the Planos, where, you're right, they moved in many years ago, and, the families are choosing to stay in their home, even though their kids have graduated and moved on.
Yeah.
And then those homes that become available, they're not affordable, for new families. And so they're pushing out north.
Yeah. Which then makes you wonder, is that just going to continue to happen, right? We're going to push out there and people are going to buy homes. They're going to, if people would move, right, then things would stay. But to your point, home prices have gone up. So now the home in Plano that was a starter home is not a starter home for most people. So, okay, I just said I didn't know if it's...
Sure. And school funding, has so much to do with that, where you can't run campuses at a 50, 60% capacity. You got to look at all that. You've got to close campuses or repurpose them and combine campuses. And, it's so difficult for school districts to do that because, there's a lot of emotion in that. And I get it, like where we built our home, was right next to elementary school, and that's the purpose of our kids going there. And so when there are repurposing closures, it's a tough process, and nobody wins in the process, and but
it's on the heels of saving all of the money, right? Yeah. It's the district going, hey, we've got to save money where we can and operating this building and blah, blah, blah. So let's just move these teachers and these kids and shuffle them. There was a couple of schools closed where we live. And so my kid's school got a whole bunch of new kids into it. And it's been fine. We don't, but my kid's school didn't close, right? So nothing changed for me. I'm still driving to the same school every day, but for a lot of people, and I don't know if this is a Texas thing or all over the country, but there's just a lot of pride and like, my kid goes to this school and like you got the sticker on your car and the blah, blah, blah. So I think there are parents who really get tied to, and if they've had older kids go through that school.
It was interesting too, the school district where we're raising our kids, rezoning is a yearly process, where, a lot of these districts that have been there for a while, they haven't rezoned in 7, 8, 10, 12 years.
What causes a rezoning? Is that just the city or the school district goes, hey, it's time to shake it up?
Sure. Yeah. Where we live, it's growth, and it's new schools being built. And then, districts with campuses that are closing, it's where this kid's going to go now. What's their path going to be?
Yeah. Because my son doesn't go, the middle school he goes to is not our closest middle school.
Right.
It's just what we're zoned, where the lines are drawn. So, and again, I have no issue with that. It's just like, but that one, so I drive past that one to go to that one, but whatever. So something that recently happened here was these school vouchers.
Sure.
Which again, it doesn't affect me, but I don't know enough about it. So anything you can educate me on, I'll tell you what I understand is that our governor passed a law that said, hey, if you want your kid to go to a private school, then we're willing to give you X amount of money per year for your kid to go to a private school. Which, again, simple mom brain goes, A, private schools are way more expensive than whatever you're going to give me this money for. And B, why is that money not going back into public education for where the majority of kids do go to school? Yeah. Tell me what you can about vouchers.
I'm far from being having enough knowledge maybe just to be a little bit dangerous with it, but you're right. You're taking money from the public education system that's already hurting to give to somebody that's going to go to a private school. And I think the biggest difference, and again, I don't know enough about it, but public schools, we educate everybody. Whoever comes at our doors, we educate. And some of those kids take more money to educate, some of those kids, and we get more money to educate those kiddos. But private schools can be a little more pick and choose, and so the kiddos you're taking away too from the public schools, affects the school overall as well.
I also don't understand our government system enough to know, why did this not go to a public vote? Like, what things can the governor just go, this happens, and other things it's like, we will put this on a ballot, right? Yeah. Because I think you put that on a ballot, you would get a different response.
Yeah, I don't know enough. And from what I understand is this has been up multiple times, but now, the majority is this party, and so then it got passed. And I don't think it's going to affect North Texas like it will affect other areas. I think, where we live, the school systems, public school systems are majority still trusting them and believing them. And so, but, I don't know how it's going to affect some of these maybe inner city or rural areas, where, parents are eager to get out of the school systems.
Interesting. Yeah. I guess, again, I hadn't thought of, we're selfish people, right? So we go, how does this affect me? And I have a friend in Oklahoma who they send their daughter to private school and they get this voucher and they're like, we'll take the money.
Sure.
But
it doesn't cover,
right? Yeah. We had this plan in place either way. So it's just an interesting, the other big thing that passed this year that was the no cell phones in school.
Sure.
Now my kids aren't old enough to have phones yet, or we've made the decision not to give them phones yet. But my first thought was, in the day and age that we live in, what if something happens?
Sure.
Right? And that kid needs to be able to tell their mom, hey, I'm safe, or hey, I'm not, or whatever it is. That was my first panic. But then I also have seen people talk about, man, it's been great in the schools that phones are put away. Yeah. And I know you're not in a school currently with your role, but what are you seeing or hearing, or what's the effects of that so far?
So when I got to my middle school, probably 4.5 years ago, like we put that in place. No phones before it was mandated because.
So that decision can be made at a school level.
Yeah. And
did you have pushback from the parents?
Some, not much. Okay. More positive, but some people were kind of like concerned, like, well, how does my kid get a hold of me? I'm like, they're welcome to come to the office anytime. Like we're not gonna not let your kid call you.
Right.
And I think one of the coolest things that came from it is if you walk into a cafeteria It's loud. Like it's, you're like, is there
You
any
smile
control
when you
there?
say that because what did it look like before?
I mean, everybody was head down, and we actually had one of the high school principals, the district I am now, said that one of the kids made the realization of like, there's people I've never seen before. I've never seen these faces before because people are walking the halls with their heads down, looking at their phone, and so, I think overall, and then like we saw a decrease in some of the things that were, might be considered cyberbullying or,
You saw that decrease because now maybe we know the person a little bit better.
then we're not phone, causing havoc, I mean, like, texting about somebody else and, the stuff still happened when they were off campus, but less of it happened because they weren't taking pictures of their friends, they weren't, doing inappropriate things on their phone. And so, and I think I love what you said that, as parents, y'all are making a decision when it's appropriate to get that phone. And we did the same thing. And, man, parents out there, if you're not watching your kid, if you are not putting limitations, if you're not taking that phone up at night, your kids are doing things they shouldn't be doing, no matter how good a kid they are.
Well, and it's tough because even in elementary school, my son's on the bus with kids who have phones.
Yeah.
And we had a hard lesson learned because one of those kids videoed him, right? And I'm like, that video's, if they post that, which they couldn't at that point, but I'm like, they have that video of you forever. And he wasn't doing anything horrible, but I'm like, whatever you've said is now on video.
Sure.
And even with the text messaging, right? Like you learn out real quick because kids will screenshot your text messages and send it to, it used to be, hey, we're going to call so-and-so, don't say anything. We'll call on three-way, don't say anything. But now like they've got pictures of what you said. So it's training them, not just that they're doing bad things, but like how to navigate that world of communication that way. So I don't know. We've kind of said we'll wait until 8th grade, not really based on anything. But that's kind of been what we've said. So there's a whole campaign of wait till 8, which I don't, again, I don't know the research or anything behind it. It just kind of was like, well, it seems like a good age. And when we made that choice, they were small and we're like 8th grade.
Yeah, we did 13 years old. And
okay.
My son's about to turn 13 and I don't think it's going to happen for him, because, I don't see that maturity yet.
Right.
And, one of the things we also done is, and this is probably a whole another podcast, but, no social media, even for our 10th grade daughter, we're like, not going to have it. And she pushes back sometimes, but I think she's more comfortable with who she is because she doesn't have it.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the questions I do have education-wise, and you mentioned the PTA, was what is the right amount of involvement for a parent? Because I, again, have kind of been that parent, and I grew up with parents who both worked outside the home. So they weren't up to the school volunteering. They weren't going on field trips very often with us. They did what they could, of course. But you also have those parents that are like up there every day and they're volunteering and they're subbing in the school and all that. And I'm like, what is the healthy balance? Because I'm not like, I'm going to give you my kid, you're going to teach them, and then you're going to send them back to me and I'm going to do my job at home.
Sure. And that's fair. And that's good, but I would just say, have that open communication with those teachers. If you can get involved, be up at the school, if it's only once or twice a year, just like you're talking about volunteering as watchdogs, once a semester. But I think that the biggest issue right now is there's certain, it's kind of like us versus them, and on the education side, that's not it at all. There's certain parents that's
their attitude is it's the parents versus the teachers instead of being collaborative.
Sure. Yeah.
How to work?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, it's reach out to those teachers, just forming that relationship, and involvement is important, and again, we're kind of the same way with y'all are. We're like, hey, we're sending our kids, but we're here as a resource, and it's always going to be positive intent. Like we're always going to assume you're taking the best care of our child, and that's what I would encourage parents to do too. And there's teachers out there that chose the wrong profession, and we'll see that every once in a while, but the majority of them are there for, like, they have your kid in mind, in their heart. They want the best for your kid, and so just knowing that and going into conversations with that mindset when you do need to reach out to the teacher.
You start from an even playing field.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you could change one thing about our public education system here, like you could stamp it tomorrow, what would that one thing be?
We've got to find more freedom for teachers to do what they do best, and that's teach. There's so many things that get in the way of their ability just to own their own classroom and teach to their ability, teach to their comforts. There's so
Is that
much.
an over curriculum? Like we've told them you have to teach this on this day. I don't know the back
Sure.
end of education at all, but what does
Yeah.
that freedom
Sure.
look like?
Yeah.
Because how do you maintain a standard and give people that freedom?
Right. And well, one, you take away some of that standard, right? Like, we're forced to teach towards a test so we can have a good rating, and I'll give you a prime example of one of my best teachers I ever had. Her scores weren't always where they needed to be. They weren't bad, but they weren't like through the roof, and she was a through the roof teacher. But every kid walked out of that classroom wanting to read, this love of reading, and she was able to foster in her classroom. Like,
That's a life
yes,
thing.
yes, and that's like, to me, I see nothing but joy and like she's doing her job, but she wasn't moving kids the way she needed to be moving kids, and that will eventually reflect in some part of our accountability system. And so yeah.
My son's favorite teacher, one of his favorites this year, and I'm like, tell me why you like this teacher. And he's like, because he just makes learning like conversational. Like he just talks with us, right? He's not standing up there lecturing us. It's more of a conversation, and like his tone is calm. And so those are the things that I'm like, you're not going to see that on a standardized test. But my kid loves going to this teacher's class every day. And so I see your point just from that standpoint.
That's so important. Like, again, that teacher's created this environment where your son wants to be, and like, that's awesome. That's incredible. It's not because it's a free-for-all class, they're learning probably more than some other classes, but just that teachers had the opportunity to create an environment where they can have a conversation. And, I can't even imagine the good things that your son's learning from that class.
Yeah. And honestly, the reason I reached out to you the other day, I text Bryan the other day and said, hey, I just dropped my kid off at school, which I don't normally do. He rides the bus, but I had dropped him off that day. And it was the principal that was out there like directing traffic and waving kids in and smiling and waving at people. And I text Bryan, I was like, man, I bet you were a great principal. Because again, you just have that, able to handle parents and kids at this age. So that's what made me just spring to mind. And I was like, we should talk about that. So I like to end each podcast with an open the gate, share something with us that people don't know about that they should. And I'll let you take it away there.
It's a good question. Like, when you let me prep just a little bit for this one. And so, there's nothing like specific popped into mind, but a couple things that my wife and I really enjoy. And it's probably just because we're educators, but there's a winery up in Munster, Texas. It's 4L Winery. I believe that's right. There's also a little shop in downtown McKinney that's the same winery.
Okay.
But there's this area near Munster that they call the North Texas Hill Country, and there's a couple wineries, there's a little brewery, and it's just a cool, quick getaway. And we actually were able to take our camper up there and stay a couple nights at the winery. But if you were even just to do a day trip, it's this beautiful area where you're sitting outside looking over what looks like the hill country, and just a nice little quick getaway.
Okay, that's super cool. Mine, because you and I have music in common, we both like Reckless Kelly.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to recommend a band that one of my favorite things to do is go to concerts. Like I feel the most free just at a concert, vibing out. So there's this genre of music that James and I listen to. I don't even know what you would call it. It's like a reggae rock island style.
Okay.
But there's a band called the Dirty Heads.
Okay.
So I don't know if they'll be in your lane or not, but I would say go check out the Dirty Heads. They're just my good, chill, vibe out kind of music. So
you're on the way home.
There you go. Yeah. There's my recommendation. We're going to be back with Bryan because I had two topics I want to talk about, and I knew we could talk about both for a little while. So we'll be back with Bryan right after this, but there's no messages. So we'll be back.